Hello Fiends and Collectors, this is me, Daniel East 1000, back again with another Star Wars review. And well, today we're going to be taking a look at something a little bit different, something that we don't tend to look at on the channel as much. So, to make this event even more special and spectacular, I need to bring in the help of a YouTube legend, Mr. Sith Lord 229 himself.
Thank you very much for that glorious introduction.
So, without further ado, today we're going to be taking a look at the Disney Store exclusive, Disney Parks exclusive as well,
Star Tours is proud to introduce the Starspeeder 1000.
So this particular item is one that's very special to both of us, and it certainly has a story behind it.
Not half. This was a saga unto itself with regards to actually finally getting it in hand, thanks to the powers that be at the Disney Store. But it's in hand, we have it, and we're able to bring you guys a review of it, and I'm very excited. I don't know about you, Dan.
I am thrilled to be bringing this to you guys for you today. There's a bit of a history lesson that we can go through with this and what the meaning is behind it for both of us. So, shall we get into that now?
Let's dive into it.
Let's get into some history. When Star Tours first blasted off at Disneyland in 1987, it was more than just another park attraction. It was the first Star Wars themed ride ever brought to life in a Disney park. Originally replacing the old adventure through inner space, Star Tours took guests on an unforgettable journey throughout the Star Wars universe aboard the Starspeeder 3000, piloted by a slightly overconfident droid named Rex.
Hey, sorry folks, I'm sure to do better next time.
Voiced by Paul Rubens of Pee Wee Herman fame. Using then cutting-edge motion simulation technology and real model effects from Industrial Lights and Magic, guests raced through the galaxy, dodging Imperial forces, and even survived a wild plunge into the Death Star Trench. The ride was a massive success, expanding in the years that followed to Walt Disney World, Tokyo Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris. After more than 2 decades of service, in 2010 the original Star Tours closed its hangar bay doors to make way for a new generation of galactic travel. In 2011, Star Tours The Adventure Continues launched, featuring the upgraded Starspeeder 1000. The new model introduced a fresh pilot, the friendly droid AC-38, or ACE, and C-3PO, who accidentally takes control for most of the ride.
Then there's no time to lose. Off with you, go on, shoot, shoot. Tour droids, ready. What? Oh, now this is malfunctioning too. This could take longer than I thought.
Unlike the original single storyline, this new version used randomised scenes, sending guests to a combination of eras and planets from across the Star Wars galaxy. This being further expanded in the following years, beginning in 2015 when more scenes would be added to coincide with new Star Wars film and TV media projects, expanding this to over 250 different adventure combinations, keeping the experience fresh and unpredictable for every launch. From the classic Starspeeder 3000 to the modern Starspeeder 1000, Star Tours remains a cornerstone of Disney's partnership with Lucasfilm and a fan favourite ticket to a galaxy far, far away. What does this vehicle mean to you? And the ride itself, having you been on this version of Star Tours yourself?
I was a little bit late to the Star Tours party. I didn't actually attend a Disney park until 2017. That was the first time I visited Disneyland Paris. But to ride Star Tours and just to immerse myself in what can only be described as an in-universe experience, because not only is the ride itself absolutely phenomenal, but the queuing process as well. You're taken through this starport, you've got all these droids kicking about. It's like being a part of the Star Wars movies, and as someone who has yet to visit Galaxy's Edge, for that to be, you know, the closest that I've actually gotten to being a part of a galaxy far, far away, it was just a phenomenal experience. And then the ride itself, I knew going in that it was just a simulator simulator for all intents and purposes, but the way in which the ride's being executed is just so cool. And the fact that it is constantly being refreshed with new footage and new experiences from new media, I just love it. It plays into that weird and wonderful aspect of Star Wars that I just love so much, and it's just one of those things that if it was closer to home, I'd be on this thing every single day. I absolutely love it.
So I don't really have experience with this particular model of the Starspeeder. I went to Disneyland Florida in 2003, and as such I was on the Starspeeder 3000, the first incarnation of the ride. And I can completely attest to what you've just said, because as a kid I wasn't even a big Star Wars fan back then, and queuing up for it, I wasn't really much of a ride person either. Coward. But I remember the droids, I remember the atmosphere, and it just absorbed me into this universe that I didn't really have a full knowledge of. And then as such, going on the ride, I was absolutely immersed. And that's one thing I love about Disney parks, is the fact that they really absorb you into the universe. With Star Wars, they've done an amazing job of it. With them updating it now to feature new media, the media that people are now more familiar with, just opening that universe to new Star Wars fans and existing Star Wars fans is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, the interesting thing is they did a Starspeeder 3000, which is the one that I went on, and personally, I would have liked that version.
Yeah, it was the D23 exclusive, which, I'm not going to lie, it was released to a more premium standard. You had the display stand, you had the carded Captain Rex included.
Rare as rocking horse doo-doo.
Yeah, it was very, very limited in its release, even more limited than this one, which was, again, a complete saga to get a hold of, even if you pre-ordered it, which we'll get into very, very shortly, of course. But it was a little bit more of a collector's item, whereas I'd say that this is more of a toy. With that in mind, that perfectly captures the essence of Star Tours for me, because it's a chance to bring home the ride and play with it at home. That's the biggest takeaway for me.
And the amount of features that this particular item brings, you're going to have the same enjoyment as having that other version as well, for sure. While not being as premium in terms of the little additions you get with that one, I'm more than happy with this one, as I hope we showcase in this video for you today. But just touching on what you mentioned with your issues with it.
Yes.
So this went for pre-order on May the 4th.
It did. Very early in the morning for us in the UK. I think at the time of it going live, myself and you, we were on our way to the Star Wars Fan Fun Day event. So we were literally up at the crack of dawn, ready for the car journey there. And before we set off, we sat in the car and we both pre-ordered at pretty much bang the same time. Or am I wrong?
Oh, I think you pre-ordered yours way before me. Got in the car and you said, oh yeah, I've got mine on order.
Ah, okay.
I was on the blower saying, Papa, birthday's coming up soon. If you would be so kind, it's just after September when this ships. Or supposedly in September. That came early. Cracking. You know, I pre-ordered this some hours after you, and I'm sure many other people. I felt absolutely devastated for you when you got that email that you sent to me.
Well, I should preface this by saying, and she will kill me if I don't mention it, that my wife very kindly pre-ordered this one for me as an early Christmas gift, and I was actually at work pretty much around the time that this thing was ready to ship, and she received the email to say that her pre-order had been cancelled, and she texted me while I was at work to say, I'm really sorry, but the Starspeeder pre-order's been cancelled. And I honestly thought she was jesting. I thought, sure thing, okay. Thought she was just trying to scare me. And then forwarded me the actual email, and I could not believe it. I was absolutely floored and just baffled as to what had gone wrong. There was no explanation in the email, no circumstances as to why pre-order had been cancelled. Just, hey, we know that you ordered this item. Unfortunately, it's been very popular and we're not able to fulfill your pre-order.
Or in their words, we made a boo.
Oh, which was patronising to say the least, but be that as it may, I didn't want to let it sit. As far as I'm aware, pre-ordering something means you reserve it.
You've allocated it, yeah.
To cut a very long story short, thankfully, the Star Wars community didn't let it slide either, and there was enough of us who made a noise to push Disney into rectifying the situation, and I don't know what they did, I don't know how they did it. Those who had their pre-orders cancelled, at least to my knowledge, all managed to receive their Starspeeders. So the issue was rectified, crisis averted, but man, it was a stressful couple of days. Trying to get through to somebody at Disney Customer Services was one of the most strenuous things I've ever done, because man, they were not cooperating, they were not helpful, they were using ChatGPT, but we got it.
We got it in the end.
Yeah.
We both did.
Yeah.
I mean, I was blown away that I had my pre-order fulfilled. I even said to you, look, I don't know where the frick I'm putting this thing. So if you know, as long as I get to do the video with you.
I've got an empty shelf.
He's got an empty shelf. As long as I can do a video with you about this, then I'd be more than happy. But luckily, we both got one.
Yeah.
I managed to find somewhere for it, which I'm very happy about, because it is just a stunning, stunning piece. Enough of our waffling about this item we've not even really shown yet on camera. So let's take a look at the packaging. First and foremost, you've got a beautiful front presentation of the vehicle itself. You've got the name of it, Starspeeder 1000, the Star Tours logo, and the adventure continues at the very top. 14 and up, ages 4.
So it's not a toy, it is a collector piece.
I love the Star Wars racetrack as well. That's absolutely lovely for those who like that vintage look. But it's got that modern twist as well. And then on the top, you've got a lovely breakdown of some of the features. And something quite interesting you mentioned to me was the fact that it's done in the style of when you enter the Star Tours ride. Can you elaborate on that?
That's one thing that really struck me about the packaging and the presentation for the vehicle, is the fact that the packaging itself features graphics that are reminiscent of the queue itself at Disneyland. So as you're walking towards the ride, getting ready to embark onto the Starspeeder, you've got all these panels and vents and lights going on. You're literally at a Star Wars airport, and that is reflected in the packaging for this vehicle, which I absolutely love. You know, looking at the box, you experience it just by staring at the graphics, which it takes you right into it, which I absolutely love. It's so immersive.
Because you've also got the blueprint as well, of which features all them awesome details in terms of what features it has, with the LCD. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
It's got the LCD screen, not LEDs, but it does have LEDs as well in terms of its lights. Just a beautiful breakdown in terms of that. And again, with that really nice blueprint design as well. And of course, what would a product be without its incredible legal garb? So yeah, don't swallow your Starspeeder, though I'm not sure if you would be able to do that given its sheer size and girth.
Don't put the batteries in your mouth, kids.
Don't do that either. This doesn't come with batteries either. It takes 6 AA's. And alternatively, something I really like is the fact that it comes with a USB-C cable. So you can have this plugged in and you don't have to waste batteries.
Not only that as well, but I think one of the things for me about the USB thing being such an innovative inclusion is the fact that I've got a number of Star Wars toys in my collection where I have been very neglectful and I've left the batteries in for a number of years, and the batteries have then leaked and corroded the battery compartment. So the fact that you've got the option to have this, you know, if you want to have the electronics, you know, functioning and in play all the time, you can have this plugged in all the time, and you don't have to run that risk of damaging the product.
And that's what makes it a really premium product in my book.
Yeah.
Continue on with the packaging though. On the side you've got a lovely image of R2-D2 and C-3PO there, the pilots of this particular version of the Starspeeder 1000, and a little image of the figures that come with this set. Not only that, you've also got a picture on the other side of the Starspeeder and C-3PO and R2-D2 there as well. So overall, I really like the packaging design on this one. It looks absolutely stunning, really thematic. But enough about the packaging. Let's now get into what we've really bought, the vehicle itself. So here we have the Starspeeder 1000. Let's just really appreciate the paint application and details that are in this. The logos, the Urabash, the painted on little light details are just something so exquisite and to behold. Just to give you an idea of the size of this thing. Here's me, for example. I'm quite a sizey guy anyway. Steve, and also this 3 3/4 inch C3PO, which it comes with.
It's absolutely unreal, isn't it? I think, because there have been previous versions of the Starspeeder released over the years, and those were pretty sizable pieces. And I think upon this item's release, a lot of people thought, well, you know what, there's not a massive amount of difference size-wise. But let me tell you, this thing, it's weighty, it's girthy, it's a big boy. Getting a workout just lifting this thing. It's huge.
But you're definitely getting your value for money, at least in terms of the size.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We've not even scratched in terms of the additional features that this has. So before we get into the actual vehicle itself, because it does come with figures, let's take a look at those now. So, coming into the figures themselves, we get 2, technically 3 C3PO, R2D2, and
IC360 camera droid, which is technically more of an accessory, I suppose, but it does class as an individual character.
But on Star Tours, you'll never miss a thing. Introducing the IC360 Intelligent Camera System, available exclusively on all Star Tours flights. Our cam droids place you nose to nose with the galaxy's most dangerous creatures, take you out into the most extreme climates, and put you right in the middle of the action.
So your mileage may vary on that, whether or not you class this as a third figure, but 3 separate characters included with the Starspeeder, which is not to be sniffed at.
Something that I would have liked to have seen with the IC360 droid though, because they have included a hole in, not to be crass, his bottom. It would have been nice if we got a display stand for him.
Yeah, definitely. So you could display him independently of the Starspeeder.
Yeah, you can attach him onto the Starspeeder itself. And the paint application on this guy, for all intents and purposes, is really, really good. It's nothing too exuberant, but there's some nice markings on him, and it's pretty crisp.
Yeah, really nice. And I love the overall aesthetic of this one as well. It's very similar in terms of its design to the Senate security or the Senate camera droids that we see in the Phantom Menace, that you see very briefly floating around in the Senate chamber. It keeps in theme with the Star Wars universe. And yeah, just a really nice, neat little accessory. Cool to see.
It's a cool touch. Now moving in to 2 characters that need no real introduction. R2D2 and C3PO. So these 2 figures are not the most perfect figures in the world by any stretch, but it's nice that they have included them within this vehicle set. I mean, you need a pilot.
R2 serves as the navigator as well, so he's a necessary inclusion.
It's nice to have a C3PO, also including his little command chair as well, which is a separate piece to the Starspeeder, so you can really get him sat in that quite nicely and posed up before you finally pop him inside the Starspeeder. Something I'd also add in terms of the C3PO is the fact that he's got an open hand. Really grips on to the armrests of that. I really do like these figures, although they are a little bit janky. I think C3PO particularly, his colour palette is a little bit muted. It would have been nice if they used that chrome that they used on TC-14.
Yeah, more of a reflective finish. Not quite vac metal, but a little bit more premium in feel to what we actually get with this set. I think that's my biggest issue with the 3PO figure itself. While for all intents and purposes it is just a figure that's meant to pilot the ship, and when it's on display you're not going to see a great deal of him anyway. But it would have been nice if he'd just got a slightly better paint job, just because the finish on this makes the figure itself feel a little bit cheap. Not to a bootleg extent, but definitely could have been better.
Reflective of how quality the product, the vehicle is, and to the figures, it is a little bit of a bum note. Again, it's just nice they've included both of these. You know, paint application for R2, pretty decent. There's nothing to really grumble with that.
No, it's just a basic astromech, isn't it, at the end of the day? So what's interesting to point out about C-3PO is actually that he is, I'm not entirely sure, a repaint or a reissue of the C-3PO that was included in a Disney Parks Droid Factory 2-pack with R2 to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Star Wars back in 2017. But the sculpt is absolutely identical, even down to the open palm hand. Yeah, so I think both of these figures use Build-A-Droid parts. 3PO obviously relies on the protocol droid body parts were available in the Droid Factory overseas in the States. Don't think the Droid Factory is a thing anymore in US Disney parks from what I understand. It's only Disneyland Paris here in Europe that does. And even in Europe, the Disneyland Paris Droid Factory only offers up astromechs. But yeah, reasonably articulated though, it does have to be said. 3PO features a swivel head, swivel shoulders, hinged elbows and swivel wrists, swivels at the hips, hinges at the knees and ankles, and a nice ball jointed torso, so you can get him seated in the Starspeeder nicely. And then R2 is what you'd expect from a Hasbro astromech for the most part. Swivel dome, swivel shoulders, hinged ankles, and a removable third leg and dome. And obviously the parts are interchangeable with other Droid Factory releases.
But that's it in terms of the figures themselves. Nothing else we can really add to that. So let's get into the main course. The Starspeeder 1000. To activate this behemoth in terms of its play features, so you've got this panel of which can be flipped up and you can access the switch of which if you pull that up you know that it's on because the lights at the front will illuminate. Furthermore, this now allows you to activate the numerous play features that this has. So at the very front you have these buttons. First and foremost there's this one, of which will flip open these front cannons and it will activate the sound, and when you press it again. Now, it is worth noting there's been numerous problems with this feature.
Yeah.
And it's a very particular mechanism. Some people have received their Starspeeder straight out of the box with just the cannons flipped out like this, and every time they try and flip them back in manually, they just don't have it, they flip back out. Alternatively, some people have had no issues with them. Me and Steve have one of which is prevalent on both ours, which is weird.
Yeah.
It worked perfectly fine just then, but if you do it sometimes, it'll do that, where it activates the shooting sound rather than the activation sound of the guns flipping out.
Yeah, so it's almost like the mechanism and the electronics aren't in sync unless you give that button a double click. So if we just demonstrate that again, like Dan said, the hatches open, the blaster cannons are revealed, and you get instant blaster fire sound. Whereas if you press it with 2 clicks, you get the opening hatch sound first, which is the way it's supposed to be. So I'm not entirely sure whether that's a widespread issue or whether it purely is just myself and Dan's samples. Because like I said, some of the known issues on this thing seem to be a little bit hit and miss.
Which is a bit of a shame considering the price of it, but at the same time, there's one main feature that at least works on it. I've not seen anyone really have any issues with that main feature, of which we'll touch on, and if that was an issue, I'd be a bit miffed. But that just being a problem I can kind of overpass, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fine.
Now, just moving on, you've also got this button here, and when you press that, I love the coloration on those LEDs.
The fact that you've got the blue down the side of the barrel and then the red at the tip of the cannon is just so cool.
So just coming to some of the features on this side that aren't electronics. You've got a nice droid socket for R2-D2. He sits a little bit loosely in there, but comfortably enough. Additionally as well, you've got this panel of which flips up just behind R2 that reveals
IC360.
Of course you can close that up. Not only that, there's also a rather cumbersome panel of which can be removed, and that shows some inner greebling work. It's not really that amazing.
It's not the easiest hatch to open either, and this is another one of those potentially widespread issues with the Starspeeder itself, in the fact that it almost feels like it's been put in place before the paint on the Starspeeder had dried. It's a bit of a problem, to be honest. It's not the easiest hatch to access, but to be honest, if you can't get it off and you are having difficulty, then it's probably not worth taking it off at all. You might as well just leave it in place because the detail that is there is very minimal. It doesn't really offer a whole lot display wise.
Do you want to rest?
Yeah.
So the electronic features continue on the side of the vehicle, at least this side, with the doors. Now, a really fun feature that Disney have put into this thing is the fact that the doors will open by the press of a button.
Yeah, the button's just located on the back of the ship. You press that in, and when you do that,
you get that iconic chime. Now, on your copy, it doesn't stay in place. It should stay in place when you move your finger off that trigger, but as soon as Steve does that, it should have a locking mechanism. It might be something you guys experience as well.
It's one of those things, like, as we're getting through this review, we're talking about these issues that plague certain samples of it, and it feels like we're dogging on it a little bit and trying to bring this thing down. But when the issues aren't consistent, it does feel like there's been a little bit of an issue with quality control in certain cases, and that's why some of those issues tend to be present on some samples and not on others. But even such as that, the fact that you press that button and the doors open up and they don't stay in place on my sample, it's a minor inconvenience. It doesn't bother me. The fact that that chime is there, the fact that the doors open and you can just recreate that, I love it. It's, you know, the little nigglies aren't enough to really bother me and take away from the vehicle itself and my enjoyment of it. So one thing that is worth pointing out as well is the fact that, unfortunately, while a button on the back of the Starspeeder operates the doors on one side of the vehicle, on the other side the doors can only be opened manually, which is a little bit of a shame given the fact that when you actually ride the Starspeeder at Star Tours, you enter the vehicle on one side and then have to exit the vehicle on the other. So it would have been really nice if there was a button either that operated both doors at the same time, or there was a button for each side to open each set of doors. Unfortunately, you can only open them manually, which is fine for display purposes. But for playability, it's just a bit of a bummer, really, but not a major detriment to the Starspeeder itself.
And if we just take a look around the back of the vehicle, as you'll see, you've got some great greebling going on there. Bless Steve with his muscles trying to handle this thing. Now, the cool thing is, you've got these back thrusters in this translucent yellow plastic, and they actually do light up. Quite weirdly enough, it's only when you play the inside video features that they will glow. It's kind of weird that they didn't have that on when you've got this plugged in or no button to activate that. Again, it's not a biggie, it just would have been nice if that was an independent thing as well while you've got it on display, not playing the video.
Yeah, it's interesting that the headlights come on when you turn the vehicle on, but the backlights don't do the same thing.
But just have a look at some of the additional little features as well that aren't electronics, because there certainly is some really nice thought that's gone into this. Particularly at the top here. Now, there's this storage compartment of which you can remove like so. And you kind of think when you get it, well, what's the point in that? There's no need for it. Well, you get a nice USB-C cable. And where are you going to store it? Well, nicely enough, you've got that space in there to wrap this up and pop it in there when you're not using it.
And another interesting thing to point out about that storage compartment is something that you brought up, Dan, off camera, is the fact that if you've picked up any of the Disney Parks exclusive action figure sets over the years, such as the boarding party or anything like that that comes with luggage and additional accessories for the Starspeeder, you can store those in there as well, and that's something that I find really cool. I thought it was a weird thing to have, that compartment was detachable when I first got this in hand, but after you pointed that out, I think it's really cool.
It's not anything too exuberant, but it's something that's shown a level of thought and care with this particular product. Now, not only that, if we are able to show the bottom of the vehicle, really showing Steve's muscles here, there's actually a locking mechanism for the feet, so these can be actually retracted into the vehicle and out. I will say it's a little bit tricky. At least when I got mine, I don't know about yours.
Yeah, getting them to lock in place was a little bit of a mission.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that was easily... I had to give them a little bit of an extra tug just to get them in place where they'd lock. Not an issue in and of itself either, really, to be fair, but it's just something that's worth pointing out. You know, you think you've got it in the first go, and then you put it down and the landing gear retracts.
Sagging.
Yeah, and it's just something that you just need to give it that extra little bit of attention just to make sure that those landing struts are locked in place. But even the detail in the struts themselves, I mean, you've got wires and cables, you know, all the hydraulics in there, which look really, really cool. There's not a great deal of sculpted detail going on the bottom of the ship itself.
What I would also mention as well is, because this does use the Starspeeder 3000 sculpt, you've got the recesses where the display stand would plug in for that. So it's a little bit of a shame that they didn't include it with this one, but if you do have that version, you want to display this one on that, if you do have it, then you've got that option there. Also as well, at the very bottom, you've got the USB-C socket.
Yep, you also have the battery compartment towards the top as well, or towards the front, should I say.
So that's the bottom of the Starspeeder, all wrapped up and done. Let's move on to the interior of this behemoth. And to do that, you've got these two tabs just here, which if you push in, as demonstrated, you get a good look inside of the Starspeeder. So a really nice internal detail are these little lights or fans. The only bit of work that you have to do is apply some stickers. I'm really pleased that this set doesn't have that many stickers as it is. There's just these three here, and the stickers that they are just a nice little detail, a nice touch.
Yeah, it's a seatbelt sticker, it's a no smoking sticker, it's stickers that are accurate to the ride. It's not or a besh, it's not anything Star Wars related, it's purely health and safety, and I just find that amazing.
And you know what?
I think it's so fun.
It works because also, while it is a Star Wars vehicle, signs are such a universal thing that anyone can understand.
Yeah.
So you've got an alien that looks at that and they're like, yeah.
No, I know to put the bags under the seats, like a good little weak way.
No death sticks either.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it does feel a little bit like an afterthought as a sticker, but there's no complaints there. So yeah, let's move into the actual internals of the Starspeeder now. So here we have the internal details. You have 25 seats with seatbelts because safety is key for your figures. So you can choose whatever figure you like that's 3 3/4 inches to sit in there. I mean, I can't wait to see what people do with this, and already the crazy assortments and cast of characters that people have put in.
Yeah, I've seen some really cool assortments where people have just gone to town and put such an eclectic mix of characters in this thing, and that's the fun part of this. It's not appeared in any film or TV shows.
Actually, the Starspeeder 1000 appears at the Battle of Exegol in Rise of Skywalker.
Well, actually, that's unused visual effects.
While that may be true, Pablo Hidalgo acknowledges that over 14,000 starships arrive with Lando as part of the Citizens' fleet, and Wikipedia's article states that at least one Starspeeder was a part of this, somewhat acknowledging these unused assets. But besides, the point that null and voids your argument is, it appears in the very background of Force Awakens on Jakku.
My guy, I respect the hustle, but please just touch some grass.
So the fact is, you can be creative with it. You can put clone troopers, skiff guards, Jedi, Sith, anything you want basically in this, because it's just a transport. It's to get characters from A to B.
So just giving you a nice look into that interior at the very front of the ship, you've got this cover to protect the LCD screen, just in case you've got any stowaways while swooshing this thing about and they've happened to come out of their seatbelts. Well, you can pop this off, and that's very nicely detailed with some lovely texturing of like a rolling shutter effect.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if it could actually roll down, but that would be expecting quite a bit from the design team. But then you have the main event itself, of which is the LCD screen. So to get this to work, there's several different functions. The first one being, if you press both these buttons together, that will set off the star field to just set the ambience and vibe of the starship.
Ambiance?
Do you like that?
Yeah. Whoa, sorry.
Not only that, but this left-hand button, when pressed, will set off one of 3 random video clips taken from the Star Tours ride. Not only while these play, you have the lights and sounds of what's happening on screen featured within the vehicle itself. It is a scaled replica of the Starspeeder 1000. The button on the right hand side will activate C-3PO voice clips.
Shields are part 2.
And as you were saying about it being a scaled replica, even the detail on the floor is what you see when you board this thing on the ride. It's just such an incredible piece, and the detail that's gone into this really can't be understated, because it is like it just jumped right out of the attraction and into your collection. It's unreal, it really is.
And you know what? At the front of the vehicle, where there's a black bit of paint application, which is to represent a screen.
Yeah, it's sort of a blank panel.
But what I've thought that you could do, for those of you creative out there, if you've ever ridden the ride, there's a rebel spy that Imperials or First Order are looking for. And if you really want to, you can print out a picture of yourself, or maybe even Photoshop it a bit, and you can maybe stick that in there or blue tack that in to just have that as a bit of a unique piece to yourself. There's so much ability to customize this thing to how you want it.
You've also got the seat there for C-3PO, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you can actually take the seat out of the vehicle. The disc that the seat slots into actually also accommodates the Captain Rex figure that was included with the D23 Starspeeder 3000 release, so that's really cool, and again a nice little bit of customizability that's been afforded to this ship.
There's a little flip out panel of which has some doodads in there.
I never knew that was there.
Yeah, so that's it for all the features of the Starspeeder 1000. Now let's get in to the final closing thoughts. So that's pretty much it for the Starspeeder 1000. I hope we've covered absolutely everything. If there is anything we've missed, be sure to sound off down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have found with this thing. But Steve, what are your thoughts on this behemoth?
I can't help but gush about the Starspeeder 1000. It's such an amazing addition to the collection. I've been wanting to add one of these to my own collection for years now. Going back to what we were saying earlier about visiting Disneyland Paris in 2017 for the first time, I went with every intention of picking up the original 3 3/4 inch Starspeeder, but unfortunately it had been a couple of years since that vehicle was made available, so I missed out. So to finally have an opportunity to add it to the collection in this form, in this iteration, it's a dream come true. I've said it before in live streams we've done, I am more than happy to wait for a product for as long as I need to if it means that the licensee can make it as good as it possibly can be. And with the Starspeeder 1000, the 3000 that came before it, that is definitely the case. And the lights and sounds, the video footage, everything about this thing is absolutely phenomenal, and it is such a fun toy.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I am so pleased to have this as a centerpiece in my collection. I can't wait to hopefully one day ride this iteration of the Starspeeder 1000. But let me know what you guys think. Have you picked this up? Are you wanting this added to your collection? Sound off in the comments down below. And well, this is me, Ansiflord229, sign out. Thank you very much for watching.